going to be one of my first aircraft reviews for you, CJ. This is the Captainsim 727. As you know, when I was here, I had found one that I had downloaded that was freeware from Thomas Ruth, and it was pretty good actually for a freeware. This one I paid about $34 for, and then there were two expansion packs that were $12 each that added the 727-200, and one that added the cargo carriers, and each of them came with their own library pack. And then I also had downloaded one from the internet, which is a Continental one. And Captainsim includes with the aircraft a really easy tool that you download the files and folders, or the textures, and you place them into one folder, and then you go into this tool, you click on it, and it'll go ahead and change the aircraft configuration file for you and put the files in the right spot. So all you have to do is just click on it. And then to save space in your aircraft library, if you decide you don't want to use it, you could just remove it from there. It'll place it off into the side, but it won't be displayed in Flight Simulator, and that'll help load your aircraft quicker. There are some bugs to this aircraft. The main one being that you have to load the aircraft twice. When you get into the aircraft, you'll load it like you normally would. Then you have to open up the top bar, go to select aircraft, and reselect the aircraft. So now the custom sounds work, and this normally it really wouldn't be a big issue, but this aircraft has a lot of nice sound packages for it, including this panel right here, which is a voice thing. You had the flight attendants and the captains, and by
hello, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, it's the captain. Very warm welcome on board.
The cabin announcements.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board this Boeing 727. May we remind you that your hand luggage should be placed in the overhead compartments, and in the interests of safety, heavy bags or bottles must be placed underneath the seat in front of you, and all aisles and exits must be kept clear. Thank you.
So, you could even customize these. They're labeled in the sound folder as Flight Attendant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's Captain 1, 2, and 3, and then you could even create your own and say them as Captain 4, and you could have your own voice on here saying what you want to say, so it would just be like you saying. You would click on it, it would play that sound file. So that's another very cool feature on it. The other cool thing, you'll notice I've got a lot of doors open right now on here, and the pilot's window is open. We have the stewardess and the air stairs, wheel chocks. Is that this aircraft comes with a animations control panel. This makes it real easy to open and close doors. Instead of having to do the Shift E then hit 1, 2, or 3 quickly, you could just click the button and it closes the door. So we have that. You could even do the I think this has to be closed, but it has the escape slides as well too that could come out. And there's the escape slide. You have the stewardesses that are here. The other thing you can do, you could come to the back of the aircraft, and this is something that people, if you understand the tale of D.B. Cooper and the money he took, you have the rear air stairs that come down. This is where he jumped out of the aircraft at out over Oregon. He had them lower this door, and then he jumped out with his parachute. The other thing we could do is we could open engine cowlings, so you could actually take a close look at the engines. Some versions that came with this, you could even open the engine cowlings on the side aircraft. This version is only the tail. And you could even put the engine covers in, and with the thing is off, you could put the dust excluders, which is the flags that hang off the aircraft. Alright, so now we'll go on inside the aircraft into the cockpit. Now this is actually very nice. This aircraft also comes with a working weather radar, which used to be an add-on that you'd have to buy from Captainsim for like $14, but it actually comes with the download if you buy it from their website. So you could get this weather radar in here, and it'll display just a very generic, which is what it used to be in this aircraft, just the arcs with the red, yellow, and green weather, and it does interpolate with the weather station's in-flight simulator to make it realistic. So it's not going to be a clear sunny day and then there's thunderstorms popping up. Now, as you saw in one of the videos, this aircraft is a handful to fly, and this is what a lot of the difference is when you see like a 737-100-200, 300, 400, 500. This would be like the 7X-7 like 100 to 200 range. It's usually these steam gauges is what they're called, or round gauges. This is how aircraft, like the Cessna flies with, and how all airplanes used to fly until this all work off of pressure and static, not too many electrical, which is good because if your electric fails, your thing can still operate. Except for this right here that requires power because that runs on a gyro and it needs the electric to spin it. So to me, the aircraft, the interior is highly detailed. There's a ton of things that you could click on in here. Almost every one of these buttons works. You got panel brightness for lights, horn cutout. This is the rudder trim, old school autopilot, and the radios. Every one of these buttons on here work. All the buttons up on this work. This is an old ADF, or automatic direction finding. You can even move the handles in this one by clicking on it. So just clicking it once, you can actually hold and move it. The top screen up here, the overhead panel, all these buttons work. They're all functional. Even these little lights right here, the red and the white one, these dome lights can come on. You could, all these little lights light up, and the night scenery is actually pretty impressive in this aircraft, as you saw from the VOR videos. So you got all that. It also adds like a nice rugged look to this aircraft, like it's old. You're missing like the panel covering on here, and you've got some insulation showing in the bottom. It makes it look like it didn't just roll off the assembly line, because chances are right now 727 didn't, and this is what it's going to look like on the inside. The other thing is too, you could click on the armrest move, and you can move this one. This is another huge feature, a difference between the newer aircraft and these older aircraft. This is the engineer station over here in video setup. This is all like your smoke detection, your electrical equipment, fuel systems, and the air conditioning packs. This is how they used to control it. There was a third person that would fly in here, and he was in charge of making sure the fuel was transferring correctly, the valves were opening and closing, the fuel engine heat was on, the hydraulic pumps would be turned on. If there was any issues, he could operate the bypass systems, control the oxygen flow during the if there was an emergency, balancing out the fuel tanks by turning on fuel pumps and transferring fuel from tank to tank to keep the aircraft balanced. He had to set which what power sources things are coming off of, and it's just crazy, all this stuff that they had to do. Now, in newer airliners, all this stuff is pretty much automated. If the aircraft can tell, for example, we'll use the fuel. The aircraft could tell that one of the tanks is heavier than the other and the aircraft is a little out of balance. It'll automatically turn on a fuel pump and transfer fuel to the lower tank to balance out the aircraft. New computers have eliminated the engineer's position, so now with some buttons up on the overhead panel and in the built-in computers in the aircraft, the plane can handle all this. For the two pilots could just basically monitor these systems. So, that's a really cool feature of this aircraft, is this this cockpit right here. It's very detailed. I like the oxygen mask hanging. I really like that the windows can open and close. And you can even open and close these windows all on, one at a time. And again, in the flight simulator world, that doesn't make a difference. It's not like you're going to feel a breeze come in or get rained on if it's raining, but it's just something neat. Again, about the only issue I found with this aircraft was that sound problem. The other nice thing is that downloading of this was real easy. I bought it from the Captainsim website. You could download it, pay for it through there. Then once you download, you use your order number to log into their website, and it gives you a list of everything that you've downloaded from them, and then you just click on the product, and then there's links to download new aircraft paint schemes. There's links to the forum so you can talk to other people, and then there's a link to the knowledge base. So if you already know like what the problem is, you could search that. Like the sound is a knowledge base number, I think 2390, I found that in the forum. I went to the knowledge base, clicked on it, and it told me different things to try and fix it, which none of it really worked. It worked a little bit, whereas before I couldn't get the sounds to work at all. Now I could do just the reload like it had originally said to do, but I had to change aircraft configuration files and download different DLLs and install them. Alright, now the other really cool thing about this aircraft, and one thing I like with add-on aircraft, is this right here. Welcome to the cabin. So not only can you, sit in the air, just in the cockpit, but now we could actually even go into the cabin. And in this one is crazy. All these bins open and close. The shades go up and down. The seat belt, or the seats here, you could move the armrest up and down, and if you push the button, the seats recline. And that's not all. We even have the table trays come down. So you could sit back here while this plane is flying around on a long haul and autopilot on a long stretch where you don't have to change things very often, and you can sit here and just click on these things just like you're flying in the airplane. I find this useful in some of the videos I do, because I like to do videos of like looking out the window out over the wing when you're landing, or just things like that. It has nothing to do with flight simulator or learning to fly. It's just some pretty cool stuff that you could do, like upon landings. A cool thing would be to sit in here while doing a landing over out over St. Martin. When you come in over the beach, we could sit in here and do it. It's because this airplane doesn't have auto land, though. You can't really sit in here and land the airplane. You'd almost have to have FS Recorder, which is free. You could download that, and that'll let you just play around, or you fly the airplane, then you could go back and replay it like a video, and then you could change your camera views, and you could like sit in one view. You could sit on a wingtip while you land, and then you could replay it and go sit in the cabin, and it'll record your entire flight. You can also come over here, and we have the gallery. But you can open and close all these. At least one of them you could open and close. This right here is the service door, and it opens with the it'll open with the what am I thinking of? The animation panel. You could open the service door, and that'll work with another add-on that I have that I'll cover in another video called Ground Service GSX. And the other really funny thing on this one is you can click on this, and we can use the potty while flying. And there's a really good detail work in here. It's got the intercom service, your no smoking signs. I know in the video things seem kind of blurry, and I can tell you that on the actual game this is very clear. Everything is easy to read. Don't know if you could really tell, but there's even reflections in the mirror that show like the sink reflection. You can see the change table reflection. You can see the soap dispensers, the drain. It's crazy, but it's if you're gonna spend the kind of money that I did on this, it's nice to have all these little extras. Now the aircraft does come with manuals on how to start it and checklists. It's got 2 sections to the checklist. The first one is just like a check sheet, and it goes through all the procedures. Then the second half of it details them more. It goes through and says what each switch does and why you're doing it. So you could just go do the easy version, or you could scroll to the next section and then just read through it, and it'll take you a lot longer to go through. But it'll take you a lot longer to go through it, but you'll learn why you're doing it, and then after you go through it a lot, you'll learn it, and then you could basically just skip that. I wanted to turn it on so you could hear the engines in this aircraft. It sounds really cool inside here. I did the Control E to just start all the engines. It's kind of going through like a start procedure. This isn't obviously as realistic as you would. I love doing things from like a cold dark state. I love starting the engines myself. I love turning on power to the aircraft and clicking the buttons. Always been into that, even in little Cessnas and stuff. I love how on here the aircraft it looks old. Like you can see there's dirt on the paint. There's even the oil and dirt residue coming across the wings. This is where it gets fun in this aircraft. There's a lot of buttons and switches you have to flip to turn on to fly this thing. And that's only half the battle, turning all these on, because after all this is done, we still have a ton of other things. You know, flying this aircraft isn't just basically take off, hit autopilot, sit back and relax, because the autopilot's extremely basic in here. I think the default autopilot, like with the Cessnas and stuff, is crazy. It makes this, it'll actually turn for you. This one won't turn. You have to do stuff to make it turn, so you can't just fly over VOR and when you get to the VOR station make your turn to the left or whatever. You actually have to change your settings and change the different autopilot functions to turn. It's not just turn it on and hit, you know, autopilot on, select VOR, select altitude, and select speed, and then you just walk away from it. You have to sit here and monitor everything. So it makes you feel like you're really flying this aircraft. I'm going to go ahead and turn up the throttle so you can hear it rev up. The other thing you'll notice in this aircraft, and this is how it was in older airplanes, if you move your throttles up, it takes a couple seconds for them to spool up or spool down. It doesn't happen right away. That was normal in these aircraft. So you have to keep that in mind while you're flying, that if you need to speed up or slow down, that you push the throttles up or down. It is going to take a little bit for this stuff to happen. It's not going to happen instantly. There's tons of exterior animations on here. You got the leading edges, the slats, flaps. This aircraft is one of the first aircraft to deploy these leading edges, or the slats, to help with lower speeds such as the landing, and it changes the shape of the wing. See right there. It's an incremental, or you can do a full. Thrusters, you don't see it in here, but in some of them there's actually flaps that'll come down and change. Of course, your regular controls. Landing gear flow real nice during its animations. If it wasn't for the stupid sound thing, I'd give this a 5 stars. It was totally worth the $30-something for the base package, and then $10 for all the extras that you can add on. Unfortunately, I think that's a little bit of money for something you got to load twice. And it does screw up some things. You do have like a cold and dark state that you can load this aircraft from. So you don't have to start it with everything running. You can shut it all down and then start your flight. You can start from a cold and dark state in Seattle, and then you can just change your location and the weather to wherever you want. However, when you go and reset the aircraft, it resets all the settings for it. So the engines are off, but all the switches are on like the airplane is running. So it takes away from some of that. If we didn't have to reset the aircraft, we wouldn't have to worry about it. Yeah, there are some workarounds with that, but it's just paying $40-something, $40 including tax to be resetting the aircraft. But if you're looking for an airplane that's a little bit of a challenge to fly, you want some old school gauges for it. No GPS, none of that fancy nav aid, no FMCs to program. You want just straight round gauge flying. This is a great airplane. It's also a very historical aircraft. It was before the 737. This was the highest selling aircraft ever produced. The 737 has actually become the highest selling with more production than the 727. So there are still 727s in operation, and one of them actually flies regularly out of Miami International Airport, flies to St. Martin. It's Amerijet, which is a cargo transport. So there still are cargo aircraft, and I do believe FedEx still uses 727s. And this is exactly what their cockpits look like. The 727s do not. None of them have any of the advanced avionics that you would find in like a 737 787, Dash 400 and up, and under like the Dash 8, everything looks just like this.